All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Zaxtor99, the narrator for these Chillers short stories in this series that I started. And now we're going to go ahead and start with my next Chillers story from the No Sleep section over on Reddit. Now, these are stories that really remind me a lot of like watching those old school like 1950s and 1960s Twilight Zone episodes, the black and white ones on TV by Rod Serling. I used to love those, and a lot of these little stories that I'm picking out here kind of remind me a lot of some of those. I'm really enjoying reading them. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying listening to my new Chiller series. And if you guys have written a no sleep short story over on Reddit, or you know of one, please email me at chillersubmission@yahoo.com. I'll read all these emails from that email address right there. And if you've written it yourself, obviously give me permission to read it on my new Chiller series, and it just might be chosen for a future Chillers episode. So I do want to go and thank you guys for watching this. Let me know, what you think of this particular story in this episode tonight. And remember, if you know of a great story over there on No Sleep that would make a great Chillers episode, let me know at chillersubmission@yahoo.com. Without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and start this next Chillers episode. This story is by Horror Junkie 123. It's titled, My Wife is Participating in a Viral TikTok Trend. She's taking it too far. Oh, that's so creepy, my wife, Anna shouted. I know, right? One of my coworkers sent it to me, Lori said, her attention stuck to the screen. They locked eyes, malicious smirks inching across their faces. You want to try it? Definitely, Lori replied as the sisters shifted their focus onto me now. Um, I'm kind of scared to ask, but what are you trying exactly? Whenever these two got together, they were capable of some real mischief. And oftentimes, it came at my expense. Oh, you'll see, Anna said, handing me her phone. I furrowed my brows as I sank down into the couch. I hesitantly glanced down at the screen, unsure if this was part of the whole ruse. A TikTok video was playing on repeat. There was a woman on screen, her long brown hair partially obscuring her features from view. A wide smile was plastered across her face. Now that alone was creepy, but the way she was standing, it was off-putting. The video just cut out on several occasions, and each time it did, the woman was in a different spot in the house, hiding behind the curtains, crouching under the table, standing on the stairs. All the while, that same manic grin never left her lips, not even once. The man filming was getting audibly more freaked out with every encounter. I kept waiting for some sort of punchline. I thought that eventually the woman would break the facade and return to her normal self, but she never did. The video ended with a close-up of the woman's bulging eyes as she lunged at the camera and a guttural shriek from the man who was filming. Once it was over, I hurriedly swiped off the video and breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, okay, I see what you're... I froze. It was only then that I noticed it, that Anna and Lori were gone. They must have walked away at some point while I was watching the video. My heart dropped into my stomach. I really didn't like this trend, but I had a feeling that I was about to witness it firsthand. Anna, Lori, come on. You know I hate this kind of stuff, I shouted, tentatively entering the kitchen. My eyes immediately fell to a pair of feet sticking out from beneath the curtains. I pursed my lips, marching up to the window. I ripped the drapes aside to find Lori standing there, just smiling up at me. Oh, I'm shaking. So scary, I huffed sarcastically, crossing my arms. Lori held her pose for about 5 more seconds before she just couldn't contain her giggles any longer. Ha 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 ha. Okay, you got me, I admit. That wasn't as funny as I thought it'd be. She grinned, covering her mouth. Believe me, I know. Let's go find your sister, okay? Lori nodded, following behind me. Anna, I found Lori. Time for you to come out now. But I received no response. Lori and I continued to scour my home, searching up and down for my wife. Once I reached the top step, I then saw it. The door to our room was slightly ajar, leaving a thin sliver of darkness. I can't explain why, but something about that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if Anna had wanted me to find her. This whole thing just felt wrong. I took a deep breath, mustering all of my courage, and I pushed open the door. I nearly screamed once I laid my eyes on the scene that awaited me. Anna was standing in the middle of the room. The only light illuminating her features was seeping in from behind me, and the muffled rays trickling in through the curtains. The middle of the room, where my wife was lurking, was drenched in total darkness. Anna stood there, still as a statue, her jet black hair partially obscuring her eyes. Even through the shadows, I could see a nauseatingly wide smile stuck to her lips. My heart jackhammered against my chest, and beads of sweat began to form atop my brow. For the first time in our 12 years of marriage, I was terrified of my own wife. I flipped on the light switch, careful to not take my eyes off of her. Anna, I found you. You can stop now. She completely ignored me. I only knew that she was still breathing by the slight rise and fall of her chest. The silence was deafening. Any luck finding her yet? Lori asked, snatching me from my stupor as she reached the top step. Yeah, I did, I replied, weakly pointing at Anna's motionless form. Lori marched right up to her like it was nothing. Okay, Anna, fun's over. You're about to give your hubby a heart attack. Come on now. My wife didn't respond, however. Lori tried waving her hand in front of Anna's face, but to no avail. She didn't so much as even blink. All right, Anna, time to give it up. You're starting to freak everyone out, Lori said, clasping her sister by the shoulders and lightly shaking her. Anna slowly turned towards Lori, and then their eyes locked. Lori let out a loud gulp before taking a step backwards. Blood pounded in my ears. There was nothing behind those hazel irises. I didn't even recognize them anymore. Lori backed away, never breaking eye contact until she was standing directly beside me. Let's go downstairs and regroup, okay? She murmured. The panic in her voice made my blood run cold. Yeah, that works for me, I mumbled back. I felt as if we had to speak at a lower volume, like talking above a whisper would cause Anna to break. We crept out of the room, closing the door as we went. We'll help you downstairs, Anna. It'd be nice if you would join us whenever you're ready to give up on this dumb joke. But Anna didn't even acknowledge her sister. Once we made it downstairs, I took a deep breath. Lori sat on the couch, leaning forward and clutching her phone with a vice grip. What should we do, Jem? This was supposed to be some stupid gag, a joke. Anna's always taken these things a bit too far, but this? I've never seen anything like it. She's really scaring me, Jem. I don't know. I've never seen her like this either. Do you think we might be overreacting? I mean, maybe she really is just taking it too far. Even I didn't believe that, but it was the only possible explanation that I could come up with. Yeah, that has to be it. She'll snap out of it soon, right? Yeah, she has to. It wouldn't. The words, however, caught in my throat because I caught Anna peeking around the corner, half of her face hidden from view. Her expression was the exact same as it had been when we'd left her upstairs in the room. Lori traced my gaze until she realized who I was looking at. She instinctively backed away upon making eye contact with her sister again. Em, how long has she been standing there? Lori squeaked, shrinking into the sofa. I have no idea. We didn't even hear her walk down the stairs, and then the three of us sat there in silence. The tension was so thick that even a knife wouldn't have cut through it. I could feel myself beginning to shake. Em, I really hate to do this to you, Lori began, turning towards me, but I can't take this stuff anymore. It's just too much. I'm gonna go home. Just please call me if there's anything that I can do. And please try to get Anna some help if you can, she uttered, grabbing her purse. I could feel the color drain from my face with this. Lori, please don't leave me alone with her. I don't know how to handle this. I'm sorry, I feel bad. I really do. But it's getting late, and my kids, they have school tomorrow. I shouldn't have even stayed out for this long. I nodded, my bottom lip beginning to quiver. All I could muster was a weak, okay. Lori beelined for the door, straight past her immobile sister. Hannah didn't even twitch. Instead, she opted to remain watching me the entire time. Once the front door slammed shut, the pit in my stomach grew even deeper. I was at a loss for words. My wife and I stood there in a sickening staring match, neither of us even blinking. The smile on our face, it never wavered. But in fact, once the door shut, I could have swore that I saw it stretch just a little bit wider. I don't know if it was the stress or the fear or Lori's sudden betrayal, but something in me then snapped. This was just silly. Hannah was obviously still running with that stupid TikTok challenge, and I was feeding right into it, hook, line, and sinker. I started to get angry. All right, Anna, you just stand there as long as you want. I don't care. When you're ready to talk about this like adults, I'll be finishing up some work on my laptop. But she didn't respond. My wife just kept staring at me with that same Cheshire grin plastered to her lips. Fine by me, I was done buying into whatever game she was playing. I sank down into my armchair and picked up my laptop, careful to keep Anna in my peripheral vision. Something deep down told me that I needed to keep her in my line of sight. I opened up my laptop, trying to distract myself from Anna's strange behavior by doing some research for an article I was writing. But I just couldn't seem to get it together. It was almost impossible to focus on a task when you can feel someone just staring at you. I sighed. 30 minutes later, and I hadn't even digested a single word of anything I'd read. This was going nowhere. I was preparing to try to communicate with my stock-still wife again, but then I heard it. Something near the doorway skittered across the floor. I slowly glanced up to where Anna had been standing for nearly an hour, but she was gone. I strained my ears, listening for anything that might clue me in as to where she might have went. The only sounds that I heard were my own labored breathing and the rapid pounding of my own heart. My fingers quivered. I didn't know if I had the strength to do it, but I had to know. With trembling hands, I closed the lid on my laptop just enough to see over it. I nearly screamed as it clattered to the floor. I scrambled out of my seat and backed up until I was pressed against the wall. Anna was on all fours, frozen mid-stride. She just smiled up at me, creepily, again staying still as a statue after I noticed her. Something instantly caught my attention. It was her eyes. I had never seen anything like them before. Her eyes were hungry, predatory. I was their target. I failed to calm myself down as I slunk around the perimeter of the living room, careful not to break eye contact with her. Once I reached the stairs, I bolted up the stairs, taking 3 steps at a time until I reached the top landing. I burst into our bedroom, slammed the door shut, and made sure it was locked. I was safe, or so I thought. What the hell is going on? This is insane, I said out loud, patting my pockets and trying to find my phone. And then a sickening realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. I'd left my damn phone on the coffee table where I was working on my laptop. We didn't have a landline either, so now I was trapped. I began to hyperventilate and pace around the bedroom. What was I supposed to do? My car keys were in the bowl downstairs, so even if I was able to climb out of the window, I'd have to go back inside to get them. Running to a neighbor's house was out of the question. We lived on a secluded road, and we didn't even know the nearest people to us. In the end, I concluded that I had no other option but to try to sleep it off and just hope that my wife was back to normal in the morning. I slipped into a t-shirt and gym shorts before laying in my bed. I knew that I probably wasn't going to get a wink of sleep, but I had to give it a try. It was the only thing I could do now. I turned the lamp off, and the room was bathed in darkness, aside from the faint yellow glow trickling in from underneath the door. Right before I closed my eyes, however, I noticed something that ensured I stayed wide awake. I could barely make out someone's feet blocking the light now. I shuddered. How long had she been standing there? I didn't even want to know that answer. I suddenly heard the doorknob begin to jiggle, and then my heart it raced like a piston, and I could feel all the blood rush from my face. How could I have forgotten? I keep a spare key stashed on top of the door frame for emergencies. This was it. I was cornered. The door slowly creaked open, and I could see a glimmer of Anna's stark white teeth through the opening. Her eyes were bloodshot, and rightfully so. I hadn't even seen her blink a single time. I couldn't move a muscle. I was paralyzed with fear, waiting for my wife to scamper across the floor and do God knows what to me. But she never did. I don't know how long we spent staring at each other, but it must have been hours. In that entire time, her mouth didn't so much as twitch. That twisted, awkward smile remained stuck to her lips like she was a figure in a horror painting. I don't know, but eventually I must have nodded off, because when I opened my eyes again, Anna was there no longer. She was gone. The house was pitch black, save for the moonlight shining through the downstairs windows. And I could feel it. I could feel her, like a presence looming over me. Every synapse in my brain screamed at me to stay where I was, to wait it out and pray that nothing would happen. But I couldn't do it. I steeled my resolve, ready to fight if I had to. I flipped onto my back, fully expecting to find my wife hovering over me with some sort of weapon in hand. But she wasn't there. My eyes grew wide. I hurriedly scanned the room. I didn't find her. This was my chance. I crept to the door, stifling my breathing as much as possible. The house was eerily silent. Once I made it to the stairs, I peered down them, squinting to see in the dark. The coast was clear. I tiptoed down each step, being careful to avoid the creaky ones to the best of my ability. I felt nauseated. I could feel eyes on the back of my neck wherever I went, like I was a lamb being led to the slaughter in the supported safety of my own damn home. Once I reached the bottom, I peeked around the corner to the living room. I immediately noticed something strange. The back door was hanging wide open, and the porch light was on. I drifted over to it like a moth to a flame, picking up my phone along the way. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I looked outside. Anna was sitting on her haunches, crouched over something in the yard. Her long hair prevented me from seeing what she was doing. And then all of a sudden, as if on instinct, she snapped her head around towards me with a sickening speed. When our eyes locked, I felt like I was just going to pass out. My wife was holding the carcass of a dead rat. She had devoured a large chunk of it, entrails, bones, and blood oozing from the rear end of it. But that wasn't the worst part. Somehow, even while ravaging a dead animal, Anna was still smiling that same creepy smile. My flight or fight response kicked into overdrive, and I slammed the back door shut and raced through the kitchen as fast as my legs could carry me, snatching my keys along the way. I shot out the front door at lightning speed, not bothering to close it behind me. I leapt into the driver's seat of my Chevy, and I stepped on the gas. As my truck kicked up dust, I happened to glance in the rearview mirror. I released a horrified shriek at what I saw. Anna was standing under the garage light. She just watched me leave, that wide, bloody smile still plastered across her face. I don't know where I'm going. I doubt the cops will be of any help. I don't think Anna has technically done anything illegal, so their hands would probably be tied. I just had to get out of that house. I've parked at a truck stop for now, until I can get my thoughts together. Even though I've made my escape, I'm still downright horrified, but not for the reasons you might think. I can't explain it, but ever since I left, I haven't been able to stop smiling.